are going to point their camera down. This has never been tried before. I want you to know in the history of readings. But Rabbi Sager is going to pull up a chair, very nice and close, and I think we can see the text. And as we do, by the way, I want you to notice Adam, when reading, the yod that he used was that willow that you can see there on the page. And that is the willow the beaten willow from Hoshana Rabbah, which is our community's custom to use. Jeff Darby had a car accident. He's okay, but not quite feeling up to it. If you want, you can send him an email just to wish him a refuah shlema. We're grateful that Adam finished the Torah so beautifully. And now Adam and Alexander are going to rewind the Torah, and Rabbi Sager will give us a little picture, narration of what we see.
Well, we just read the story of the end of the life of Moses, and now we are hearing the poem, the great poem that Moses has read, has said to the people just from deep down in his heart. This is Deuteronomy. This is the last great speech of Moses, and he's rehearsing for all of the people what he has given them and what they have experienced together, sometimes with great joy and sometimes with great frustration. And there is a new creation even in the book of Deuteronomy, because Moses says, you saw and you remembered, even though they might not have. And even if they did see, perhaps they have new eyes to see. They're seeing things differently than they ever have before. We're moving back now towards the beginning of the story when Moses takes the people out of Egypt and he's recounting for them what it is that they saw or didn't see at Mount Sinai. And there I see Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai. Just a second so that we can see it. Nope, or maybe don't. Keep going. We are approaching the beginning of the book of Deuteronomy. There it is. You see the beginning of the book. At the end of the book of Numbers, we have the people trying to decide where they're going to live. They can see it, they can taste it, and they're frustrated and they want to know. And part of the tribe of Menashe and Reuven are fighting over where they might want to stay. And now we're moving back into the time of even really more fighting, more disagreement, because the people have been moving through the wilderness for so long and the taste of Egypt is in their mouths still, and they have run out of their own food. And the Korach and all of his rebels have rebelled against the people, against Moses' leadership. There's been a great, great shedding of blood. And now we're moving back farther into the book of Numbers. And earlier in the book of Numbers, there is a great hope that indeed everybody will be able to travel together piece by piece. Vayihi bin Soah ha'aron vayomer Moshe, piece by piece of the territory, and peace, P-E-A-C-E. And peacefulness. And now here is the blessing of Aaron trying to bring everyone together just where the spacing is a little bit different and the rhythm is a little bit different. And you can see his breath marks, or you can see his heartbeat here in this electrocardiogram in the white spaces of the scroll. Aaron trying to bring everybody together. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka, Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. Please let it be that way. And we move back farther and farther towards the beginning of the book and the hopefulness of moving out of the tribe. And this is how they encamp, and this is how they're leaving each spot. But when they leave each spot, they pack up in the white spaces. They pack up the tabernacle. They pack up the Mishkan. And the Mishkan, which moves them through the wilderness and around which they camp. And now this, moving back into Leviticus, is the story of the Mishkan and how it is that all of the people come to the Mishkan, how it is that they take from the Mishkan and what they bring. What are the joys that they bring? What are the sorrows they bring? What are the sicknesses that they bring to the priests? And we read about how it is that the priests are initiated into their role. How does a priest become a priest? How does a priest learn how to see the world? That's what we're finding out here as Aaron and his sons receive the instruction and the keys, as it were, to how to use the sanctuary. But sometimes it's misused, and there is tragedy that happens in the book of Leviticus too, because the sons of Aaron approach in a wrong way and are killed for it. And Aaron has to learn another Torah, which is the Torah of silence. not so different from perhaps the Torah of the white spaces. What's going on in the white spaces? The drama of the book of Leviticus has now come to an end, or it's just about to begin, and the book of Exodus has begun, or its ending is unfolding before us. And we're seeing the rules and the laws that come after Sinai, and how the people live in the presence of a calf and the gold of Egypt, and how it is that they make mistakes and recover. They are greatly frightened after all. And it's a fear that's different than the one that they're encountering right about now, which is the fear of being at the mountain itself and of hearing a voice that is so overwhelming. And now here is the voice itself uttering the 10 commandments. You can see them really scribed out in the white spaces. You can see the curve and the curve of one tablet, one luach and the other. They are hearing the voice and now moving back before the fear of the voice and before what they heard to their preparation and having come out of Egypt. And there is the great song sung at the sea, written in brickwork, 3 bricks and 2 bricks and 3 bricks and 2 bricks. And you see the sea, if you can look at it very carefully and closely, open it up again. Here's the sea on one side and the sea on the other side on the bottom line. And Bnei Yisrael halchu v'yabasha bitoch. The people of Israel walking through on the inner side, the inner part that is dry of the sea, with the water raging and frothing all around them. But that's the poet version. Now, before that comes the prose version of the story and the breath of God that is splitting the water. And now they are moving backwards towards the showdown in Egypt and the 10 the 10 plagues, the other great group of 10, and the fear that is gripping them, and also by the end, Egypt as well, and the birth of Moses and the coming of all of this greatness and all of this terror and all of this awe and splendor. And here is the beginning of the book in this white space, the last of the great interior white spaces. That is the book of Exodus, the beginning of it and the end of Genesis. And Genesis brings us the story of the patriarchs, and we are at the story of the end of the life of the patriarchs. And Jacob is dying and has died and is buried in the land of Israel. And before that, he blesses his grandchildren and he blesses his children, moving backwards through the story of Jacob and backwards through the story of the terror and the loss of Jacob's son, Joseph, and the family mistakes that bring that about. What it is that the brothers see in the torn coat that Jacob can't see, or else maybe he deeply does see it. And we move back through the family drama and all of the family dramas, because before Jacob, there is a family drama of Isaac and Esau, and the stealing of a blessing and the blindness of a father who can see, perhaps see deeply, a theme of this whole Torah, what we see and what we don't see. So the father blesses the wrong child, unless, of course, it is the right child after all. And Jacob flees from his father and his family and sees a great vision, that which perhaps stays before him and all the family for all of the rest of the story, something ascending and ascending and traveling with angels up and down. We move back through the story because Isaac has a pre-story as well, and Isaac's story and the birth of Isaac, and before that, even the binding of Isaac. Will Isaac survive to do what it is that he needs to do? Will Abraham survive the test of whether to sacrifice his son or not? Now we move back before that. Will Isaac even be born? Can there be a child given to Sarah at the age of her life? What's going to happen to the family destined by God? Is God's own promise under challenge here? Is it possible that the story will stop even before it has moved past 10 or 12 columns? Before that comes the bridge of generations from Abraham back to Noah, and from Noah all the way back to Adam. And all of the generations that people lived and learned, generations that we don't know about, generations whose stories remain untold. They're tucked away and they're told only in the story of the lives of the patriarchs that follow. So we move back through the story towards the garden, towards the flood, and the building of the Tower of Babel, and the spreading out of the earth and all of the peoples of the earth to see what they see and learn what they see and learn what they can learn and what they share, the stories that are tucked away and then shared, and back finally to the beginning of all beginnings, the beginning of all of the seeing, the Reshit, and now we are let in, the Reshit bara Elohim. And if you look at the first letter, you'll see the first letter of the Torah is a very large bet. It is from this, the opening of the parentheses, that all human thought and vision and imagination and image and grace and anger and compassion and struggle, it all comes at the interior, the opening of this parentheses. Now we're right back at the beginning, having rolled back from the Jordan River all the way to the Tehom, to the great mighty depths that are underneath and underlie everything, depths that we will see again only at the end of the scroll. So now we are ready and blessed and ready to start reading again forward, just as we have read it backwards. The story begins anew.
And to begin the story anew,